Since children cannot bring the means to be educated from their mother's wombs, we must provide it here. And let's put it this way. I don't know how many people have seen one video in which a 7-year-old Fulani kid is leading about 300 cows alone, and he's like a general in front, and the cows will follow him. And in the evening, he will turn them all around, and the cows will follow him. If you enter any Nigerian village in the savannah and you don't see the possibility of that happen, the first question you should ask yourself is why? All the children, when you listen to them, now I can tell you this. I did my youth service in Kankia, 58 kilometers to Katsina and 113 kilometers to Kano. That was where I met Sani Sada, the poet whose works I've been looking for any Katsina man who knows the Commissioner of Culture to look for. The things I learned from what that relationship gave me, I cannot talk about it because I could take the whole day talking about it. But there's one thing I could never run away from. Every child who did not go to school, listen to them after their Almajiri classes. They have a critical capacity that is not available than those who went to school. If you brought all of those children together, the child who could manage cows in the manner I've just described, and the other small boy, you will still find that in a video that is on, where a 9-year-old kid in Aba enters the market and in Queen's English, very impeccable, by any pidgin, was selling apple. But the way he was describing it, and the language he used, and the way he dragged almost everybody, all the old women in the market, to listen to his English, even if they didn't know what he was saying. It was so much that women were not buying what he was selling. They were just following him because he spoke like an oracle. And that's an oracle is not something you get on the streets. It is something that you can only get from a child who grew up knowing that Ariaria Market is a place where human beings interact and where you need to design a strategy for linking them on a permanent basis. I thought he could not speak Igbo. Then, when he finished with his Queen's English, he went into he did not sell. Nobody bought what he was selling. The boy also knew that he would not sell. But one thing happened. If there was a woman in that market that day whose child had never gone to school, when she got home, she would find a way to have a child who could speak English without sassiness, because the boy did it as if he owned the market. If you bring those two kids together, the one in Ariaria Market and the kid who led the cows, and you put them in the same class, there is no American who compete with. And if you have a head of state who does not know that putting every child at school and putting every school in every scholar in a job is the job of being a head of state, they have no right to be there. We are not in just any country. Nigeria is like an experiment that God has produced to force Africans to legitimize collective thinking. And if we don't do it, nobody will do it for us. And if we don't do it, Nigerians will be doing it for other countries. I don't know which country you are going to make. None has what we have. And what we have is not because God just gave it to us. No. What we have came from the rude interactions that many consider the problem in Nigeria. Actually, those are the things which make us who we are. That was why in my dance drama, Nigeria the Beautiful, I kept insisting that what we consider our conflict areas, our spoilers, are actually the builders of the country we must have. I don't say you should not fight for Biafra, because I will fight against you normally if you say you are going to Biafra. And the reason I'm going to do it is I discovered that all those countries in Southern Africa either passed through Nigeria or moved from Nigeria to those countries. I could pick a Zulu poet like Masisi Kunene, who tells me things that only an Edo poet could have told me, in the sense that what the Zulu poet calls a roar is what the Edo poet calls a lion. And it is like that across Africa. We happen to have spread ourselves across Africa so much that no culture that I talk about builds much of what we see in other African countries. When you listen to Maleman playing the Pan-Africanist, he looks like a mad person. But the truth is, he is more in tune with what made us who we are. The real basis of our identity is in those things that are Pan-African in nature. I can assure you, if Nigeria did not have oil, I don't know anybody who remembers that there were up to about 126 textile mills in Nigeria. As a worker in a textile factory, the West African Trade Company at Apapa, I knew so much about them because they had to bring their goods. But what is important about it is this: those cotton farmers who made the knot were promoted by a leader whom we usually criticize for turning his back on free education. Northern leaders of Odia Amadou Bello did something they should all go back and learn, which is to say, if your brother is doing it, don't turn your back. You must have a basis for interacting with that brother, so that if tomorrow those who colonized us return again, the means with which they conquered us, whether it is knowledge, guns, or whatever, will be something that we can share. After we finish fighting between ourselves, we turn our guns on those who came after. If we don't learn to do it, we won't have a country. If Biafra broke tomorrow, the West will still be after them. If today Tinubu tried to do it right, they will fight him. But if, because they will fight him, he refuses to do it right, it is our turn to fight. When writing began, it not only extended human memory, it has over-multiplied it in such a way that if you are looking for all the books written in the world, no human memory can encompass them. When telephones started, they said with telephones, people will stop reading. You and I know that neither telephone, nor radio, nor television has actually killed reading. If you want to enjoy television, you should be an educated person. You don't get educated without reading. Almost all those things which are supposed to take us back from future developments, they turned out to be an extension of human memory or human imagination. It is not possible for AI to superintend over imagination without becoming an instrument of imagination. It is simply not possible. Some believe that if you put a chip in my palm and it becomes an overriding factor in the way I do things, it will change my humanity. No,
Humanity will change that chip. So you will always have a situation where what was meant to reduce what we are actually becomes a promotion of our human identity. No, AI will not destroy us. The poets who speak on stage, who enjoy not having a script, are actually showing that activist spirit is not to be dampened in human society. The only problem I have with them is that they seem to think that they don't need a script. Every poet needs a script. And human memory, unless prolonged and defended, never really sustains itself. What makes us human is that what we create endures. Otherwise, we won't use the word culture. The word culture simply presupposes that we are creating what we last. And if there's anybody who is not defending what we last, he may be a leader, but history will push them to the gutter.